Hey, Colorado, how are you doing? What is good? I hope that you are doing well to this today. And it's just been a great Colorado spring so far, or leading into spring, with some amazing weather out there and some of this early snow that we get around the state. One of the things that I think makes our state so great is the weather, the climate, and our environment. Obviously, it's what's formed this state and made it such a great place, beautiful place to live. The flip side to that, though, is nature seems to always win. And for us here, living in the state, that means from time to time that we experience natural disasters as a result of that. Which brings me to my discussion today around what we do in our communities, particularly as our communities continue to grow and expand and have more interface with nature during those times, or maybe during human cause crises in our community. Because there's a network of organizations around our state and in our counties, like Douglas County Community Foundation, that is already there in the background, working to be prepared for when disasters or crises happen, and when they don't happen, just to continue to support the community in some really incredible ways. And so, joining me here in a few moments is Mike Waid from the Douglas County Community Foundation to talk about what their group, what their nonprofit organization is doing in Douglas County to help prepare for those instances, and just overall help the community and other nonprofits around Douglas County. So, my name is Aaron Johnson. I'm broadcasting here from Castle Rock. Thanks for joining me. My mission is to help elevate people or to spotlight people who elevate Colorado. People who are rolling up their sleeves, doing hard work in our communities, helping out others. That could be individuals, could be nonprofits, but just those people that are investing their energy and their resources in our communities. People like Mike Waid from Douglas County Community Foundation. Wrong way. There we go. So with that, let's bring on Mike Waid. Mike, how
Hey
you doing,
Aaron,
man?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. So, I mean, that was a brief snippet of what the foundation is doing. I know you guys do a lot more than that, and
We
really
do.
excited to be able to dive in and have you share about Douglas County Community Foundation. Uh,
Sure.
so, just at a high level, can you share what your team does and what your focus is?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because it's actually one of the first questions I get from folks when I tell them I work for the Douglas County Community Foundation. They go, "Community Foundation? What's a community foundation? What does that even mean?" And it's an interesting question. So, I mean, in simple terms, community foundations are a specific type of 501c3 organization. So, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. What's interesting about us is that, I mean, most people know what nonprofits in some form or fashion do.
Sure.
So 501c3s usually have a mission. It's raising money to feed kids in Africa. It's helping with abused animals. It's things like that. Community foundations, our mission, instead of it being a specific topic, it is a region. So we
Mm,
represent Douglas County, and we represent Douglas County in three different ways. And we are a non-government agency, so we are an independent 501c3. And so the three things that we do at DCCF is that, one, we help raise awareness of the importance of philanthropic participation on making sure that our local citizens, our neighbors and friends, are embracing their role to participate in the philanthropic world locally. And it's the same as, if you think about it, in my previous job, when I used to be the mayor of Parker, I
yeah.
promoted quite a bit the importance of shopping locally, spending your dollars as close to home as possible. That also applies to philanthropy. That applies to your support of nonprofit organizations. Um, it's a way for you to really get the most bang for your buck, in my opinion, is to support those local organizations. So, in one of our pillars is to help raise awareness of the importance of philanthropic giving close, local to home.
You
Second
guys are
is that
a bridge to other nonprofits in the community. Is that right?
we are.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
that actually brings to the second pillar that we
Yeah.
operate under and that is that we help guide and advise local nonprofits in Douglas County so they can thrive. So we have nonprofit partners who we can help not only provide grant funding for them, because we do raise money on a larger scale to help provide grants to local nonprofits, but we can also help advise them on ways that they can be more effective and efficient so that they can thrive. And then the third pillar, which is also pretty cool, just so everyone's aware, is every year everyone knows about Colorado Gives Day. And so that
Yes.
happens in December. And we are the regional champion for Douglas County for Colorado Gives Day. So we manage and operate that on behalf of our member nonprofit organizations. And it's pretty cool because this last year in 21, we helped our Colorado Gives Day nonprofits here in Douglas County raise over $1.6 million in that one day.
Oh wow! In Douglas County.
In Douglas County, just
Wow.
Douglas County.
Okay.
Statewide, Colorado Gives Day raised over $54 million in that one day.
Wow.
It's a really cool program.
Yeah. No, it is, and I had done some live stream chats leading up to that with some really great organizations. And as I looked around, I mean, there's a lot of groups that are out there that you could give to in Douglas County. I live in Douglas County as well. So, just looking at the number of organizations that are down here is really incredible. So, but that's really great to hear that sort of funding. Yep. So, okay, so you mentioned that you're a former mayor, but I'd love to hear more about, what led you into this, right? How did you go from being a mayor of Parker, which was a small town, now it's a booming town, to being the executive director of a nonprofit?
Well, it was a long and arduous path. No, I'm just teasing. Yeah, right. I tell people I like to start in the beginning. It was a dark and stormy night deep in the Rocky Mountains, and no, it wasn't anything that fancy. My wife and I moved to Parker in Douglas County, obviously, at the turn of the century. And that sounds so odd to say, right. but in the turn of the century.
Your frontiers.
Yeah, exactly. And I started a small business here in town. And as we do everywhere we've lived, we really embrace the fact that we have a social responsibility to give back to our community. So to make a very long story short, because I know we don't have 5 hours for me to tell you the story of Mike Waid, but I walked into town hall and I said, hey, we're new here. I want to get involved. How can I volunteer and give back? And it's something that my dad and my mom instilled in me when I was a young kid, was that, you always want to make sure that you're giving back to your community. In fact, I can remember when I was a Cub Scout on my first scout camp, and our scout leader said to us, as we were cleaning up at the end, make sure you clean it up, leave it in better shape than you found it, so that way the next group can have a better time than you did. And that's really kind of what our social responsibility is. So when I walked into town hall, there was an opportunity on one of the boards and commissions, a volunteer position with the town. I took advantage of that. It was the Special Licensing Authority. And I was on there for 5 years as the chairman for 4. And then I had an opportunity to run for town council in 2008. So I was blessed to be elected in 2008, served to 2012, then ran for mayor, was elected in 2012, then reelected again in 2016, and then was term limited for 2020. The citizens had changed our charter to allow a longer term in elected positions, but I decided that 12 years of elected service was enough, and 17 years of service was enough as well. So knowing that was coming up, and our 2 sons were going off to college, getting ready to graduate college, all of that kind of jazz, we thought, hey, let's make some big life changes all at once. So we sold our businesses, and this opportunity came up last August, to work with Douglas County Community Foundation. And I got to be honest with you, when I was first approached on it, I'm a huge fan of philanthropy, of nonprofit organizations. I've helped start several here in Douglas County, and I've been on the board for lots and lots of them. And when I was first approached, DCCF has been around for quite a while. It's been around for almost 2 decades. But unfortunately, it's been a quiet secret, I guess. I hate to sound cliched, but it's one of the best kept secrets in Douglas County that we as an organization are here serving our community and other nonprofit organizations. So when I was approached, they said, we want to take things into a new direction. We want to get loud. We want to make sure that people are aware of who we are, what we are, and how we make our world a better place. So I asked the question, I said, okay, who's on the board? And I was given the board member list. Hold on. If anyone who's ever been on a board before, we have 27 board members. And so all of a sudden I went, whoa, 27 board members. But I looked through the list, and these are individuals from businesses, from industry, from citizen involvement, from philanthropy, across the board. These are movers and shakers in Douglas County who all had a common theme of wanting to do amazing things in Douglas County. So I said, hey, I'm in. I can't pass this up. So got involved with the foundation last August and started working to bring in new programs, make sure that we're doing really good things with our donors' funds. We're in a very unique position. We have one of our donors basically supports the operation of the foundation, so that all of the rest of the money we raise can go for cause, can go to grant making, can go to our emergency fund, can go to other places doing things. 100 cents on the dollar goes out into the community, making good things happen.
Okay. No, that's great. Thank you. So for people that are watching this live or who are catching this on the replay, I'd love to know, if you're in Douglas County, what are some of the nonprofits in the community that you like to support, or even if you're outside of Douglas County, just, we'd love to hear from you in the organizations that you like to support. So no, that's great, Mike. And I appreciate you giving us that overview and kind of that leadership position of the foundation. I want to bring it down a little bit and ask you, what inspired this? What was going back? You said a few minutes ago that the organization's been around for 20 years. What was it back then that inspired the creation of Douglas County Community Foundation? What was happening on the ground that the community at that time recognized, hey, there's a need for this type of organization?
Absolutely. So interestingly enough, we were actually part of Pikes Peak Community Foundation, which is in Colorado Springs. So, 2 decades ago, the environment that we're in looked very, very different. And Douglas County was very much seen as, the kind of rural neighbor to the north of Colorado Springs. And so Pikes Peak Community Foundation, which is a wonderful organization representing the community down there, was the organization that decided, there is not a community foundation serving the Douglas County area. So they kind of picked up that slack and we're serving our needs. And then as we grew, they realized, there's probably a need for a standalone community foundation in Douglas County. So they were the organization that helped us charter ourselves almost 20 years ago to become a standalone community foundation in Douglas County. And as we've grown over the years, and then we just recently last year had again another change with bringing on some new board members, bringing me on board, and changing the focus of how we operate. And to be quite frank, for us to get loud in the community so people know about us. That's what's brought us here today. And we do lots of things. So I'll use a great example.
Please.
This last year, in 21 and in 22, one of our focuses of our foundation of DCCF is filling those mental health gaps in our community. As you're aware, and everyone's aware, not only has COVID provided an environment where mental health challenges are at the highest they've been, but funding is also somewhat ambiguous. I mean, a lot of people are bumfuzzled on how they can connect their needs with funding sources. And so we decided to step up and take that charge to help raise money and fill some of those nonprofit gaps specific to mental health. With that, last year it was really cool. In December, we issued several grants to local nonprofits, 2 of them which deal with anti-teen suicide prevention. So, for instance, one of those is they're called the Happy Crew, and they're a nonprofit here in Douglas County that the woman who founded it, Amy, she's a wonderful lady, and she brings kids together and shows them that they have a place where they belong, where they can get together, they can talk about their stresses, their trials, their tribulations. And so we were able to issue them a grant. And then we were also able to issue a grant to the Foundation for Douglas County Schools specific to Sources of Strength, which is a program that they have in Douglas County Schools to help with anti-teen suicide education. That program specifically, if I could just elaborate a little bit on it, I have some personal experience with it because I have two sons. My oldest is 23, youngest is 21. My oldest now is a nuclear engineer. He lives in Tennessee. But when he was in high school, he went to Ponderosa High School here in Douglas County, which is where my wife teaches. And he went through one of the Sources of Strength programs. And again, to make a very long story short, there was one day after church, we picked him up from youth group, and as we were driving home, we're just talking. How did it go? What did you guys do today? He told a quick story of how there was a girl in youth group that he had noticed was exhibiting some of the red flags that he had learned about in Sources of Strength. And so the tools that he learned from that program in school, in Douglas County schools, he went and was able to talk with her, ask her, how are you doing, and use some of the tools that they provided. And it turned out that she was having suicidal ideations. And because of him being able to step up and not only recognize it, but also have some of those tools to help address it, it changed the path that she was on. I mean, that's real. That's an example of how he made a real difference in someone's life. Well, with DCCF, when the opportunity came up for us to issue some mental health grants, that program was one of the ones that was chosen, and we issued them a grant in December. So it's pretty cool to be able to do the fundraising, do what we do, and see how it affects boots on the ground in our community.
So you've got mental health as one of your key areas where you're focusing in your grant funding and supporting other nonprofits specifically, and then they take the money and then they can help people in the community.
Absolutely.
Again, you guys are that bridge. Are there any other giving areas that is your focus? I think mental health, that is very much needed. My kids, and what I see that they're going through and what their peers are going through around school, and we've seen in the news. Unfortunately, Douglas County has made national news around crises and school shootings that have happened here, and there very much is a need for mental health. So I guess ask a question, but also I just want to say, that's good on you all for supporting the schools here, because it's needed. But I guess back to my question, what are some other areas besides mental health you guys are focusing in on?
Sure. So the way that we're set up right now is that 80% of our budget, our granting budget that is in DCCF, is utilized for whatever our focus is of that year. In this case, mental health. 20% is set aside for general grants. Now, there's also another side to the whole coin on this. We also manage individual families' funds. And so I'm going to use an example. In December, a local family here in Douglas County made a very sizable donation to us for the explicit purpose of using it as what are called donor-directed funds. And that is, they experienced, as a family, they had a liquidity event. They had funds come into their family as husband and wife, and they wanted to do good things with the money, which is not different than what all of us want to do, right? Well, when they started looking into nonprofits, not only in Douglas County, but also just in the Denver metro area in general, they get what I call philanthropic paralysis. And it's a very common thing to happen because, in Douglas County alone, we have it changes year to year, but we're either the most or within the top 3 in terms of highest number of nonprofits in a county in the nation. Wow. And so whatever it is that whatever your heart tells you need to do, there's probably a foundation in Douglas County that does it. So as they started examining, and then they realized that there's some surreptitious starts of some foundations. Is the money being used the way it should be used? Is it going for a good purpose? Things like that. You start to get this paralysis, and they go, we don't know how to proceed. So I connected with them. We created a donor-directed fund specifically for their family, which 100% of the funds that they put into it, we manage those funds in terms of the grant making, and 100% of those dollars go out to those grants. So in this case, this family is spreading their funds over 5 years, and I help them determine which pillars that are important to them.
Mm.
So, for instance, one of their 4 pillars is arts and culture in Douglas County. So they have funds set aside that we manage for them that are specific to nonprofits that deal with arts and culture. So
Okay.
we go through the grant process with different nonprofits here in Douglas County. We do the vetting for them, we do the management, we do the tracking, we do all of that. So again, 100% of their funds goes to cause. So we actually reach quite a number of various and disparate nonprofit organizations in Douglas County because of that.
Okay. Again, you guys are that bridge
Yeah.
to these others. Okay, so this brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you, and I've heard this from I guess a coworker or a friend who there's not a lot of criticism about nonprofits that I hear. Right, generally people aren't too critical or skeptical about them. So when you hear criticism, it stands out, right?
Absolutely.
And what I've heard is just not specific to Douglas County, but just in Colorado, there's a lot of nonprofits, and I experienced that around Colorado Gives Day and trying to identify what are some really great groups that are out there that can help spotlight. And so I guess there's that criticism. There's too many that are out there, and if you want to start a new nonprofit instead, maybe it's better to go partner with an existing nonprofit, and
Right.
so forth. So I guess I'd be curious, what's your response to that sort of criticism? There's just too much.
Sure, sure. And it's not an uncommon reaction for people to have when they start looking at it. And there's a couple ways to address it. I mean, there is one, and I do say that, look around in your community and see who is doing good things in your community and see if it's something that you can assist them. If you have an idea or a passion or a desire to start a nonprofit, look around and see if there are organizations that are already doing what you're doing and how can you help them be even better, right? So there's not a duplication of efforts type thing. But then there is also a legitimate, I guess you would call it a fiduciary responsibility that each of us as donors have to make sure that the money that we're giving is being used the way it's supposed to be used. I'm going to share a quick little story here, and as you can probably tell, I love telling stories. But
Please.
when my wife and I first started our business here in Douglas County, and we first reached that point to where we felt comfortable in the stability of the company for us to make donations to nonprofits, we started looking around, and we have what happens with everybody, every business owner especially. Every nonprofit in the county hits you up for money. We've got this, and everyone has a great need, and I'm not knocking anybody, but it's
Yeah.
we could use $1,000 for this, we could use $10,000 for this, and before you know it, our business would be out of business because we'd have no more money left. So we both decided we wanted to each choose one charity, one nonprofit in Douglas County, and not even necessarily in Douglas County, just one, and focus individually our time and our talent and our treasures to that organization. Well, at the time, my wife was working as a childbirth and lactation educator in the area hospitals.
Yeah.
So women's issues were very big for her. And we're sitting here watching TV one night, and here is a national commercial for a national breast cancer nonprofit. I'm not going to say names and I don't think they're around anymore, but I don't want to talk ill of anybody, but this is a good lesson for people to learn. This is a national commercial on a national TV show, and it had an 800 number on the bottom. She calls the 800 number, and the commercial was beautiful. And she says, "This looks like something I might be interested in." She calls the 800 number on the bottom, and she says, "Yep, I'm interested in more information. Here's my name. Here's my address. Thank you." Hangs up the phone. Well, I worked in the marketing, PR, and printing business. So about a week later, this box shows up at our house that is 2 feet by 2 feet wide, and it has $12 of postage on it. And I'm thinking, what is this thing? We open it up, and it's a brochure. It's an inch thick, and it's 2 feet by 2 feet. These beautiful color pictures. Honestly, the brochure itself had to have cost at least $100 to make. This thing but it was gorgeous. And here's Pam. She's flipping through it, and she's going, "Oh, this is beautiful. This is what I want to be. This is my group." And at the end of it is a packet of paper for her to fill out to participate. And as she's filling it out, she goes, "Mike, can you look at this? I think this is a contract." it's asking for my credit card number, and I'll raise money, but this just seems kind of odd. So as we look at the fine print in it, it was a contract.
Yeah.
She had to contract to give at least $5,000 or raise at least $5,000, or they would take it out of her credit card. And we were looking at maybe $500, maybe
Right.
$1,000.
Right.
And so a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, said, Mike, go pull their financials. They're a 501c3. They have to have their financials available for public. So I did. So this specific organization, who I think this year, don't quote me on the number, but I think that year they had raised somewhere around $400 million. Out of that money they raised, 4% went to breast cancer research. 4%. And that's ridiculous. So I understand when people start looking on how they want to give their money, it can become overwhelming because you want to make sure that the organizations are true to form, doing what they should be doing with your gifts. That's where we come involved.
So you guys are helping vet nonprofits
Yes.
that are around
Yep.
the community. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And vet them to the specifics of what our donor partners want. I mean, some of our donor partners come in and say, we only want, to our money to go to groups that are in this category or in this region or in this area or serve this purpose.
And there's different sites that people can go to online and find out information. It seems like some of them are even subscription based, which is odd to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Everybody's got to make money.
Right.
But there's something in the community where you're at, where we're at here in Douglas County, because I'm here too, but something that can help validate an organization, which is interesting. So, like I said, that leads me to the next question is, across Colorado, how prominent are these community foundations? Is this in every county? Or is it in the majority of them? This is all new to me. I learned about
Sure.
The foundation from a mutual friend, a few months ago, and I had no idea. And I've been living here for a while, so people may not know this exists in their
Right.
backyard. So
And I would
how
bet dollars
prominent
to
is it?
donuts. Yeah, I bet dollars to donuts. Most people don't know about Douglas County Community Foundation.
Sure.
So this is why this is such a great opportunity.
Thank you.
So, I'll use a good real world example of why community foundations are important. And to answer your question, yes, they are all over Colorado.
Okay.
One of the things that we just started in December we started a community emergency relief fund, and we were proactively raising money to be prepared for the next community emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we all know, several months ago, there was the Marshall Fire, and Boulder experienced a very tragic community emergency. Well, the organization who kind of spearheaded those funds and helping the community there is the Community Foundation of Boulder County. So they're the organization similar to us that was able to help funnel the funds and take the funds in from various sources and make sure that they're going to the places that are having the biggest impact and the most impact to those in Boulder. So
Right.
we decided, and that's very common. I've worked with the Community Foundation of Silicon Valley, believe it or not, as we started our fund. I started reaching out to community foundations around the world, actually, and they were one of the ones that I reached out to. How are you guys managing your fund? What is their community emergency fund in itself? Just that one fund is in excess of $300 million.
Wow.
And in their case, one of the big hot buttons is our wildfires. Now, when COVID hit, there were a lot of organizations that would use their emergency funds for COVID-related expenses and grants. In our case, we actually had a COVID fund that was established before, but our Community Emergency Relief Fund is something new to our organization, so that we could create a fund that we can backfill with money for the unfortunate opportunity that inevitably will come forward with another community emergency. And we're blessed because Amazon was our first donor partner. They stepped up and said, hey, we understand they have executives who live in Douglas County. And they said, we understand the importance of this. And so they made the first donation into that fund. And then we had another local family in December as well, here in Castle Pines, that made a very generous donation into that fund. And so right now we are building that fund. And
Okay.
so,
Okay.
individuals who are interested.
If say there's a Marshall Fire type event here in Colorado, and I'm more aware of it. You know, there obviously Marshall Fire just a few months ago. There was the fire down around Colorado Springs area, Black
Right.
Forest, right? Like, I've got some, open space in our neighborhood here that we could experience that sort of thing. But we also have flooding potentials in Colorado. Tornadoes, other things can happen
Right.
here. So, what does it look like? That event happens. How does Douglas County Community Foundation activate, and what does that look like?
Sure. So there's several ways that we activate to help provide resources in those scenarios. One of them is that because we are a non-governmental independent agency, we have that
Mm,
ability to be agile. So truthfully, within 24 hours of an emergency happening and being declared, and we have guidelines to follow that our board has established on what an emergency looks like, what qualifies, and so on and so forth. But when an emergency has happened, we have the ability to access current funds that we have, immediately, but also we have the ability to immediately accept funds in from people wanting to make donations to help out. And it sounds like that isn't a big deal, but it's actually a huge deal because
yeah.
people are very generous. They want to help and they don't know where to go. I mean, to be quite honest, just the other day, a few days ago, I received a check in the mail for the Community Foundation of Boulder County for that fire, but the person accidentally
Oh,
sent it to Douglas County Community Foundation. So there can be a lot of confusion on where do these funds need to go. So we have that ability to immediately accept funds in, be able to safeguard those and manage those funds to go to the proper sources. We also have gone through the process, and it is a continuous process, it never ends,
right.
of pre-vetting local nonprofits that deal with emergency response management and emergencies, community emergencies. So mental health, food insecurity, transportation, search and rescue, all of those. We have nonprofits already. I'm a baseball guy, so I'm going to use it already on our bench, and
Good.
we're ready to access to go to the bullpen if we need to, right? And so that's what allows us to be nimble and flexible and agile in that next case of an emergency. And emergencies present themselves in a lot of different forms.
Yeah.
Yes, we have the natural emergencies. We have the wildfires, tornadoes, floods, school shootings,
Mhm.
the King Super shooting, things like that. Those are real, those have real negative impacts on our community. And we have to be able to address those issues quickly.
Yeah, you're right. The natural disasters, human caused disaster. I mean, there's so many different forms that they can take, and we've
Yep.
seen them in Douglas County.
Yep.
And you guys are providing that infrastructure and all of that stuff that goes on in the background beforehand, because yeah, it does get to be chaotic because people are generous, right? And they want
Right.
to help out. They see something happened in their backyard and they want to support their neighbors, or it's national news suddenly, and you got people from across the country who are wanting to give.
Yep.
So it's interesting that that infrastructure is already there. Again, this is all new to me, so
Right.
I plead ignorance. But yeah, that's incredible, because I just don't think a lot of us, we go about our daily lives and we have no idea.
And we
Yeah,
don't, and most people don't think about it because
sure,
part of your life, emergency management isn't part of their natural life.
right.
And so us having, and really the fact that we started this program at the end of last year, the Marshall Fire just underscored the need for us to have this in place. I was talking with one of our
Okay.
committee members who's on our community impact committee, and as we were on a Zoom call for the committee meeting, as we were establishing the procedures and policies for this fund, she says, "I'm looking out my window
Mhm.
at hundreds of acres of dry tinder," and she
Yeah.
said, "It is all around us. That's the reality of what it is." And so whether it's again, a mass shooting or a mass event like that, or a natural event, we have to be able to be available, be nimble, and be public, because we need to be that source for people to be able to come to. One of the things I learned when I was mayor of Parker, which really stuck with me, we were part of a mock mass shooting exercise that was done here in Parker. It was actually the second largest in U.S. history,
Yeah, I think I
the
remember hearing
largest in
about that.
Colorado history. It was done at Rocky Vista University here in Parker, which is a medical school
Okay.
in Parker, and it involved agencies that ranged like police and security agencies that ranged from, you're going to love it, from the security guards at Park Meadows Mall all the way up through Homeland Security. So one of the things I learned going through that process was this: as an elected official, the best thing I can do is get out of the way, let the professionals do what they need to do. The professionals know how to set up the organization, how to set up the chain of command, how to make things happen in the way they should happen. Well, that's really the approach we took here at DCCF. Is we wanted to make sure that our procedures and our policies were established and the funds were established, so that when the next event happens, the next occurrence happens, we're able to quickly implement and access, so that people don't have to worry about getting out of the way, because that is the hard part. Everyone wants to help, everyone wants to contribute, everyone wants to show up, but we need to be able to help convey that message to them as, here's how you can help. Don't jump in your car and drive over to this place with a bag full of clothes. Maybe take that to a different place, or maybe instead of, and then there's also the fact that, this is really sad to say, but then there's a lot of scams that happen. There are a lot of organizations that pop up and say, here's our credit card, our service, send us your credit card number, we'll take the money, we'll make it happen. And it never really reaches where it needs to go.
Okay.
We're that source that makes sure it happens.
So I'm sorry, and you started this position last fall, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'd be curious, in your time here over the last 6-8 months, are there any examples that you can provide where you recognize, like, hey, you know what, the foundation is making a difference in the community? And you guys aren't giving the money directly to the people who are in need. You're that funnel, that bridge. I could come up with other analogies too, and beat that to you. But like, you guys are providing it to those organizations. But how do you see that the foundation is making a difference since you've come on board there?
So in several ways. I mean, one is the hard funds that we have granted out. Like I said, the Sources of Strength grant, the Happy Crew grant. We gave a grant to an organization called Robin's Nest Foundation that does HIPAA therapy. That's horse therapy. And so we just actually yesterday just heard from them about a teenager that we're helping fund through 8 sessions of that program to help make a demonstrable change in their life. So there's that aspect of it. There's that side of it where I'm looking at what our board is doing and what our donor partners are doing, and saying, wow, we really are making a positive difference in people's lives in Douglas County. But then me also being the marketing and PR guy, what's kind of cool about this is I have been inundated, in a good way, I'm not complaining, inundated by people who want to start nonprofits, or how can they support a nonprofit, or like this other family, we had a liquidity event and all of a sudden we have this bucket of money. And yeah, we could go buy a new house or we could go buy a new car, but instead, let's do something good in our world. How do we do it? And the fact that I'm able, and our organization is able, and our board and DCCF in general is able to come in and say, let us help advise you. And then the third part of that are these smaller nonprofits that are doing amazing things in our community. They're really good at what they do, but they might not be good at marketing, or they might not be good at business or finance. And for them to be able to come to us and say, can you help me? Can you help me take our organization to the next level? And it could be as simple as, we don't know how to do ads on Facebook, to our books are a mess. We need someone to help us clean up our books. I mean, I literally had one organization say, do I really need to file those tax forms every year?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
So
Okay.
being able to help, I get jazzed just as much. I put it this way. I had someone the other day ask me my philosophy on, not only from our donor side, but also from our nonprofit partner side, of how we help them. They asked me, do I enjoy helping the big ones and getting those big donations and helping the big nonprofits as much as the little ones, or the little ones time consuming? And I put it to them this way: in the 8 months that I've been here at DCCF, we've received grants, individual donations that have ranged from $95,000 to $25. And to me, that 25, I know one of the people who gave a $25 donation, and that couple that's a meal. Like that's food out of their mouths that they gave to help others in our community, right? It's just as important, that whole range of financial support. But then when you look at the nonprofits as well, I know nonprofits that have an annual budget of $10,000 a year, all volunteer organizations that are doing incredible things to make our future a better place. They are just as important as the large nonprofits that have budgets of hundreds of millions that are also doing great things.
Right.
So you look at it in the total scale, and it's pretty cool to be able to help all of those organizations and donors across the board feel that they're making an impact.
Yeah, and those small nonprofits. I mean, I was asking you earlier about the criticism that people say about there's too many, but a lot of those small nonprofits, they have a small segment, a small niche that they're serving, and it's important, and they know how to do it, and they can serve those people.
Yep.
And the big ones have their mission as well.
Right.
So no, that's good. So what are some of the challenges that Douglas County Community Foundation is facing at this moment?
Sure. So some of the biggest challenges that we're facing as an organization is the awareness, and we're doing a great job of increasing that awareness of who we are and what we do, and increasing that awareness of the importance of giving where you live, giving locally. And again, I'm not taking anything away from any of the large, national or international nonprofits. They do great things, and God bless them for doing that. But really being able to make that demonstrable difference local at home. So the challenge of just letting people know about it. Right now, the biggest the second biggest challenge actually is just we're in a weird world right now, coming off of COVID and coming off of, now we're into global economic issues, and
Right.
and I have a degree in political science and economics, so I can hear my economics professors behind me yelling in my ear.
Same.
Anytime I turn on the TV, all of that wears on all of us, and so. Whether embracing the challenges of mental health directly, the reality is this: all of us are strained from a mental health capacity. So that is a challenge of having to help bring people together instead of our world pulling them apart. And the best way I have found to do that is to do it close to home. I'm sure you've heard the old analogy about the starfish, and that's two people walking along the beach, and the beach is covered in starfish, and the starfish not being in water, they're all going to probably die. And so as the two people walking along, one person leans over and picks up a starfish and throws it back into the water. And they're doing this as they walk along. This one person keeps throwing starfish into the water. And the other person says, why are you doing that? There are so many of them. There's millions of starfish on here, and you can't save all of them. You can't make a difference to all of them. And the person picks one up and says, I can make a difference to this one, and throws it back into the water. Us understanding how each of us individually can make a demonstrable difference in our world, that's the important thing that I want to get out there. And so that's the challenge I face is letting people know about that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And as you were talking there, I just had looked because I had seen an article earlier today, and I didn't click on it, but I saw the headline. I thought, well, that's interesting. So I just real quick wanted to look back at the stress that people are going through. And there's a new report out from the American Psychological Association that talks about how Americans are going through stress at levels that are an all-time high.
Yeah.
So it's you're hitting the point right there. That's one of the challenges. You guys are boots on the ground, trying to help organizations that are helping people that are experiencing that and need help. So that's great. Cool. Okay, so want to try to start to wrap up here because I know your time is limited and you've been generous so far. But I guess what is, if you could give me like your top 3 or whatever, tips that you want people to know about giving to nonprofits in Colorado, what would you say?
Sure. So, all right. So top 3, let's see, I could probably give 20.
It could be more,
so
but I just
try to whittle it down to just a few of them. So first and foremost, do it. Like actually do it. I know that sounds corny. When I give speeches on entrepreneurship, one of the biggest, and I'm going to apologize, my dog decided to just go drink out of the bowl as I'm talking. So
no, please, bring your dog on. Let's see.
The biggest thing when I teach or speak about entrepreneurship, the biggest piece of advice I give there, which is the same I would give here, is do it. Actually pull the trigger and do something. because we do get this crushing paralysis when you start to overanalyze and really everyone comes at it from a point of good. They want their money and their time and their time, their talent, their treasure to do good things. And it can become overwhelming. And then what happens is nothing that happens. So the first part is do it. Don't be afraid to just do it. Pull that trigger. When you're looking at nonprofits in general, I always speak to the importance of giving with your heart. Your heart will lead your pocketbook. Okay. I don't care what the size of your pocketbook is. As long as you're leading with your heart, you're going to do good things. So look at organizations that speak to you on a personal level, that are doing things that are important to you. And that way you will have passion and your money will have much more power behind it. And then look at organizations that are not only providing the services that you want, but are also operating in a philosophy that will maximize your donation. So like, to use us as an example, one of the things that we do here at DCCF is we work with corporate partners to try to give a velocity of donation that you don't get anywhere else, a force multiplier effect. So like, I'm working on a deal right now to where hopefully we'll have, in the next month, a new campaign to where every dollar that gets donated to DCCF, this organization or these series of organizations will match dollar for dollar into our community emergency relief fund. So that's a way for a person to not only help with the general grant making that we do at DCCF, but also help with the community emergency relief fund at the same time. So really getting the most bang for your buck. Look at those organizations. I mean, anyone can go to our website, dccf.org, see kind of in general terms what we do. They can make a donation through our website as well. Or ultimately, give me a call or send me an email. I'd love to meet for coffee. The family that I spoke of earlier that we're doing the donor-directed funds for, we met for coffee in Castle Rock and sat down and said, hey, this is how I can help you make your money have a big impact in your community. And it's a powerful tool to have. So, do it. Make sure you're doing it from your heart, and make sure you're doing it with an organization that is getting the most legs for your donation.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. So go into looking at your Facebook page here real quick, showing your website as well. So we've got corporate partners here, other foundations, philanthropic groups in your community. Core Electric. We had a fundraising event last month, a gambling night fundraiser, and Core was our primary sponsor of that. And it was a fun night here at the Pace Center in Parker, raising money for us. Yeah, no, that's great. I saw that on your Facebook page, and I wanted to point that out because I think how fun to have a poker night and give people can have some fun, relax. It's a fun environment, and it's for a good cause. So that's great.
Absolutely.
And good on Core Electric, the local electrical provider around the area, to support that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so your website, what your website address is?
dccf.org.
Okay. That's the best place.
Very easy. And then my personal email that anyone who wants to reach out to me is just mike@dccf.org. And like I said, I'd love to sit down and meet for coffee or meet for lunch or talk about ways that we can help you make a difference in Douglas County.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, so before I let you go, one question that I love to ask people as we wrap up, it kind of change of topic, but I would love to know, Mike, in your view, what makes Colorado such a great place to live?
Oh, it's honestly, it's an easy answer. It's the people. To me, it's the people. Being able to sit down and talk. I've met some of the most generous, honest, hardworking people in my entire life living here in Colorado. I'm originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I never try to be negative, but I'm going to do a little tiny negative here. People ask me, well, you're from New Mexico, you're from Albuquerque, great. What do you like about Albuquerque? And I say, what I love about Albuquerque? I love seeing it in the rearview mirror as I'm driving back to Parker. That's the truth. Colorado is such an incredible place. When my wife and I first moved here, right after we got married in '97, is when we moved to Colorado. I've been able to, I'm an outdoorsman, being able to go fishing and camping and all of that, be able to, within an hour or two of my home, no matter where we've lived, I can be in great fishing, I can be in great camping and go hunting. Yeah. I could also be at a Rockies game. I'm a huge baseball fan. Being able to go to a Rockies game. But one of the things I did learn from personal experience here is just the deep love and passion that the citizens of Colorado have for each other. How they come together when there is a need. From personal experience, my youngest son, we almost lost him when he was 9, and seeing how people came together.
Wow.
He was at Children's Hospital for a week, and it was real touchy, a touch and go. Seeing how people came together to support us, seeing how we've come together to support others. There is something special and something. There's a secret sauce in the people of Colorado, and that's what makes our state and makes Douglas County such an incredible place.
Thank you. I hear that a lot. It's the people, the environment as well, as I highlighted at the top here. But yeah, the people really make it. And, I think there's, one of my coworkers likes to talk about the Colorado way. And I think that's a good way to phrase that. And Children's Hospital, thanks for sharing that about your son. And we've had experience with Children's Hospital, and it's a tremendous organization. Yeah, my heart goes out to them. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that about your son. So no, that's really great, Mike Waid. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing about the Douglas County Community Foundation and the work that you guys are doing there. Being a bridge.
And Aaron, I
nonprofits.
really appreciate the opportunity to come out and do this and talk to your viewers and
Thank you.
and help them support our community.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I appreciate it as well. As you guys continue to have other campaigns, please keep me in mind. Would love to try to help you guys as you're working and trying to build awareness. And there's other groups like it around the state. I happen to live in Douglas County, so I'm a little partial to what you guys are doing. But no, that's really cool. So glad to finally meet you as well. I've heard your name around, but never have had a chance to meet you. So maybe we'll grab coffee in the near future. Very cool.
Absolutely.
All right,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you very much. You can hang on in the green room here if you want, or you drop off. Either way, I'm just going to wrap up for a moment.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. All right, friends, thank you. Mike Waid from the Douglas County Community Foundation sharing about the work that their nonprofit is doing in Colorado. Like I said, it was a new organization to me. I learned about it recently from a friend, and I've been living here I grew up in Douglas County, but moved away for a while, came back, long story short, but didn't know until recently this existed. And I think, you can see, as Mike was talking about, around the Marshall Fire in Boulder County and what they were able to do to help the community around Boulder and the victims of that fire. That's what they're trying to do, and have that infrastructure in place. So when a disaster happens, they can help you direct money or help others direct money to the appropriate resources, and do it in a quick way and do it in a responsible way where the money is going to be spent and not be wasted, or it's not there's no corruption there with the organizations they're helping vet it. But when there's not disasters, they're there, like Mike said, giving out grants for mental health in our community, which is very important. So please check out Douglas County Community Foundation. And if you are interested in giving, reach out to Mike, check out their website, and they can help you there. So that is an example of what I'm trying to do here on Mile High Live. And I've had other interviews, live chats that I've done. You can go check it out on my website, milehighlive.co. Again, milehighlive.co. I did co instead of .com because we live in Colorado, and it just made sense. But you can check out past live chats with other great individuals and nonprofits from around our state that are helping support the community. And like I said, my mission here is to spotlight people who elevate Colorado, people who are rolling up their sleeves, doing hard work, and helping out in their communities. Every person that's broadcasting on YouTube says, hey, subscribe to the channel, like the show. Would love that, of course, if you did that. But I'm not just looking for people to subscribe and build numbers. That's not my mission here. My mission is to try to help create a community of people around Colorado that care about what's going on and sharing these stories like the foundation. And so if sounds like something of interest to you, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button, and check out my show as I have other great interviews coming up here in the near future as well. I'm very excited about and continuing to build out this platform. So I will end it there. Thank you so much, friends, for tuning in, catching this on the live or catching this on the replay. I appreciate your time and your consideration, and we'll just continue to highlight great stories and what's good around Colorado. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.